It's been a long wait, in fact a whole generation of consoles have come and passed, but finally we now have a new Star Wars Battlefront game from EA DICE. This is primarily a first person multiplayer shooter, and there is little on offer here for players who aren't planning on playing this game online. At the moment of this review, the game currently has 14 multiplayer maps over 5 environments from Endor, Tatooine and Jakku from the new film A Force Awakens. From the moment the game starts, we had goosebumps running up our forearms as the John Williams score blasted through our surround sound system. At this point, it's probably worth pointing out that all of us at Massive Trigger are big Star Wars fans. The presentation of the game is a good place to start. The graphics are as good as the previews. This is a very good looking game. The game is full of original Star Wars music and sound effects that really draw you in. The screams of TIE fighters overhead, the sound of blasters, lightsabers ringing out as you battle in one of the many multiplayer games on offer. The only slight blip to the perfect presentation is that some of the voice acting is not performed by the original cast members. Although the voice acting is good, it's noticeable when the rest of the sounds are so authentic. Most people will be glad to know that the game focuses on episodes 4 to 6 with a little splash of 7. It's basically Rebels versus the Empire. There are 10 different multiplayer modes if you include the free DLC Turning Point, the Battle of Jakku. Fighter Squadron is quite an impressive mode where you get to fly around in some of favourite vehicles from TIE Fighters, X-Wings and also the Millennium Falcon. Out of all the modes, we found this the most overwhelming at first. The screen was so busy with action. However, after a bit of trial and error and perseverance, we found ourselves loving it. You have Cargo, which is essentially just capture the flag. There's Droid Run, where it's 6 versus 6 game, where your aim is to capture and hold 3 power droids as they have their own fixed paths around the environment. To be fair, this was one of the last modes we tried. We just didn't like the idea of it, but we were surprised and enjoy it. We had a frantic feeling of trying to rush to capture or hold the next droid while trying to pay attention to enemies at the same time. Walker Assault is a 40-player battle where the Empire are attacking the Rebels' base of Hoth with a caravan of AT-ATs. As the Empire, you must protect the caravan to its objective, whereas the Rebels must destroy it. Blast is simply your classic 10 versus 10 team deathmatch. Drop Zone is where escape pods periodically crash land on the map and the 2 opposing teams of 8 must fight to control each pod. It's quick paced and very frantic. It's not to everybody's taste. Heroes and Villains is essentially Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia and Han Solo versus the Emperor, Boba Fett and Darth Vader, with a few ground troops for support. This is by far the easiest and quickest way of getting to play as one of the main characters from the Star Wars universe, especially in the online mode. The premise is simple: first team to kill their opponents, heroes or villains, wins the round. We found that the key to success was stick together, especially if you're the villains, as they seem surprisingly underpowered when compared to the heroes. Then we have Hero Hunt, which is where 7 Imperials or Rebels are pitted against one of the iconic Star Wars characters. If you manage to hit the final blow against the hero or villain, then in the next round you become them. We found this mode quite frustrating at times. We would be the player to put the most damage onto the hero, for somebody to turn up at the last second and get that final blow and be rewarded with a chance as playing as them in the next round. Supremacy is the Rebels versus the Empire in a 40-player match over large maps where you battle it out for control of 5 points. All bets are off, and you have the option of becoming a hero, villain or piloting many of the vehicles by finding power-ups randomly placed on the map. This is the jewel in the crown for Star Wars Battlefront, and in our opinion is the best mode in the game by far. It brings all the assets from the game together and puts them in one mode and lets you go to war. It really immerses you in the universe. And then the free DLC, Turning Point. It's similar to Supremacy. It's a 40-player game mode where the Rebels need to locate and capture control points. by defeating the Empire. After successfully controlling a point, the time is extended, further points are activated further on in the map, with the ultimate goal to make your way across Jakku until you secure the final point, the Empire's base. There are a number of offline modes within the game, but nothing that represents a story. There's survival, which is essentially horde mode, where you fight off waves of enemies. There's battle, which is you and a friend against each other, or cooperating against the enemy AI. And finally there is hero battle, which lets you become your favourite hero or villain in a battle against rebels or the Empire. The controls are pretty much your first person standard shooter setup. The game includes the normal array of power-ups you can unlock to give you the edge in your multiplayer adventures. However, within the offline mode you are given access to all the unlocks from the start, so this is actually a good place to practice and test your setup before using it online. We would also recommend playing the tutorials before you rush into the multiplayer modes. Anyone expecting major improvements or additional modes and features from the previous Battlefront games will be disappointed, as this is definitely a reboot of the franchise. We feel the game is a little light on content, and after around 20 hours of play you will probably have experienced everything the game has to offer. This is not to say that you won't stop playing it. The longevity is certainly extended if you get together with friends. We haven't really encountered any problems or bugs in the game, to be fair, and the matchmaking is pretty solid, and we haven't encountered any real delays when trying to join a match. We really like Star Wars Battlefront, and it's certainly satisfied the long outstanding itch that we've had for years. The game does a great job of immersing you in the Star Wars universe with great graphics, sound and massive epic battles. Yes, the game is light on content, but we expect this to grow with DLC and maybe Battlefront 2. We give Star Wars Battlefront a very respectable and solid 7 out of 10.